Hi, welcome to Ziora Familia. Welcome, guys. Welcome back to my channel. To all of my returning subscribers, welcome. You guys are wonderful. I love you guys. And if you're new to my channel and you're yet to subscribe, please do that already. It's free. It costs nothing to subscribe. So click on the subscribe button and don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment in the comment section. So guys, in today's video, I'll be teaching you how to cut and sew this beautiful skirt. It's very easy, very simple to make. I already have a video where I show you guys how to draft the skirt pattern. So if you've not watched the video, please do well to watch the video. Check out my skirts. So let's get to work, guys. So these are the materials we'll be working with. I have my lining, my Ankara fabric, zip, my chalk, scissors, pins, my tape measure, pencil, and of course my skirt pattern. These are back pattern and this is for the front. This is the front pattern. So guys, there's a little adjustment I would like to make here in our front pattern, and that's concerning this front dart. Personally, I don't want my skirt to carry the front dart because I don't like it. So but if you're cool with it, if you like it, just go ahead and work with the dart. But for me, I am going to eliminate this front dart, and what I will do is I will just cancel it, and then the 1 inch dart, I am going to remove it from the side using my curve ruler like this. It's 1 inch because my dart intake that I added here is 1 inch. So if I remove it here, I'll have my actual waist measurement. So but if you're cool with it, just go ahead and work with the dart. No need to remove it from the side. So I'll remove it like this and connect it to the hip line. And after you've done that, you can just go ahead and cut out your pattern. So your pattern is ready. You have your front and back pattern. So let me indicate where our zip will stop, and that's 1 inch before our hip line. So this is the point where our zip will stop, 1 inch before the hip line. Take note, guys. So it's time to cut our fabric. We'll be starting with the front pattern. But before then, there's something I also like to do here, because my skirt does not carry or does not have the waistband. So, and our waist is not straight, it's kind of curvy. So I am going to go down here by ½ inch and make a curve. So you go down here by ½ inch on your center front, just mark ½ inch here, and then you draw a straight line first. Okay, so using the curved side of your ruler, you now make the curve. So you have something like this, and then you cut it out. Okay, so we can now go ahead and cut our fabric. Right here I am going to leave 1.5 inches as a seam allowance. And then you can now use your pins to pin down your pattern. Here I am going to mark 1.5 inches as a seam allowance, and on the waist side I am going to mark 0.5 inches as a seam allowance. So after you've done that, you can just go ahead and cut out your fabric like this. It's time for us to cut the back skirt. So you fold your fabric in two, just like we did before we cut the front. The only difference is that our back skirt will have 2 pieces. I'll also leave 1.5 inches here as our seam allowance. So on this side, I'll also leave 1.5 inches or as our seam allowance, and then on the waist side I'll leave 0.5 inch as our seam, and on the center back also I'll mark 0.5 inch as our seam allowance. So you can go ahead and cut. Now it's time for us to cut our lining. You can cut exactly as you have here on your fabric, on your lining also, and then trim out 0.5 inch so you don't have exactly what you have as your fabric, because I want the fabric, the main Ankara, to be a little bit longer than the lining, just by 0.5 inch. So you can cut exactly as your fabric on your lining and then trim out 0.5 inch, or you can choose to just move your fabric a little bit just by 0.5 inch before cutting the lining. That will enable us to turn the down part of our skirt and for it to be looking very neat. So just move your move your fabric a little bit just by 0.5 inch, and then you cut. Or you can choose to cut exactly as you have your fabric on your lining and then you trim out the 0.5 inch. But I think this is better. So we can now cut our back lining. So what I will do here is I'll cut exactly as I have here on my fabric. I'll cut the same thing on my lining first. I'll make a notch here to indicate our dart line. I also make a notch here to show where our zip will stop, and that's 1 inch before the hip line. Then on this part of the lining, I am going to mark 1/2 inch because I want that my center back for my lining to be longer than the side back. So I'll just go by 1/2 inch on the lining and then make a slant like this. So it's just this part of the lining that I am going to reduce. So this part, it's kind of shorter than our main fabric, just by 1/2 inch. So you have 2 pieces for the fabric and 2 pieces for your lining. Okay, so you can go ahead and take out your pins. So we'll be going to the sewing machine now to sew our dart. Our dart here on my pattern is 7 inches, and then if you add the 1/2 inch seam allowance we added here, you have 7.5 inches as your dart. So I am going to sew here 7.5 inches on this side, and I'll sew 7.5 inches on the other side too. I'll do the same thing on my lining. So I'll take it to the sewing machine and I'll bring it back for you guys to see. So this is what we'll have. After sewing your dart, you have something like this. Okay, that's for the fabric, and this is also for our lining. So the next thing for us to do now is, this is where our zip is supposed to stop. This upper side is for our zip. So from this side here, I'm going to use 1/2 inch and sew this side all the way down. We'll do the same thing for our fabric. This upside is for our zip, so we are going to leave it like that. Then from here that I made a notch, we are going to sew 1/2 inch down to this part. So guys, this is what you have. You can see the way it's looking. So this is what you have, both for your lining and your fabric. Okay, it's time for us to fix our zip. So on this side of your fabric, you turn your zip like this. I like to work with long zip for my skirt. So after fixing the zip, I'll cut out the excess. So this is how you place your zip, and then you sew. Then you do the same thing on the other side. Turn your zip like this, and then you sew all the way down. So guys, you can see what we have now. I'm done fixing the zip. So the next thing to do is to turn our waistline with our lining. The right side of the lining facing the right side of our fabric like this. Using 1/2 inch, you sew all the way down to this part of the zip. You do the same thing for the other side, and after you've done that, you now turn it and then you top stitch. After you've done that, you are going to iron it. So guys, this is what we have, and right now we can now cut out the excess. So right here now, I am going to sew here this part to help us cover our zip, and then our skirt will be looking very neat from inside. So you do the same thing too on this other side. You sew it all the way down. After you've done that, you're going to iron it. And now this is our front skirt. So you're going to place your lining on it like this. And then using 1/2 inch, you are going to sew this the waistline with 1/2 inch. Use 1/2 inch to sew this part, the waistline, like this. And then after you've done that, you turn it and then top stitch and you iron. So guys, I'm back. I'm done ironing, and it's now time for us to do our shaping, and we will do that separately. We'll shape the back separately, and then we'll shape the front skirt separate. So you just fold your backs. We are starting with the back, so you fold your back skirt in two like this, and then remember our nape to waist for this measurement is 16 inches. So you place your 16 inches on the waistline. That's your shoulder to waist measurement. So mine is 16 inches. You place the 16 inches on the waistline, and then our nape to hip is 25 inches. Our nape to hip is 25 inches, and then you go up by 1 inch and you come down by 1 inch. The nape to knee is 34 inches, and you mark it just like this. So you are going to measure your waist circumference, and the waist circumference is 28 inches rather, and then if you divide it by 4, you have 7 inches. So you mark 7 inches here. So I'll measure what I have left, and it's 1 inch. So I'll mark that 1 inch here. And that's because I don't want to sew on my lining. I just want to sew only on the fabric. So I'll mark that 1 inch here. So it's still the same thing as having 7 inches on the waist line. Let me go over it again so that you don't get confused. My waist circumference is 28 inches. Divided by 4, you have 7. So I mark 7 inches like this. But because I don't want to sew on the lining, I just want to sew on the fabric. That is why I measured what I have left here, and is 1 inch, and then I then mark it here on the fabric. So you see the same thing as having 7 inches on the waist side. So let's go over to the hip. Our hip circumference is 38 inches. Divided by 4 is 9.5. But I'll not be marking 9.5. I'll mark 10 inches. The additional 1/2 inch I'm adding here, I'll remove it from the front skirt. So I'll mark 10 inches here. So using your straight ruler first, draw a straight line here, and then you use the curved side of your ruler. After you've drawn this straight line here, you use the curved side of your ruler to connect it to the waist line. Okay, so you measure whatever you have here and then mark the same thing on your knee. I have 1.75 here, and then I'll mark the same thing on my knee line. Then using the straight side of your ruler, you connect and draw a straight line and then bring it down. So I am going to sew this part on my machine, and then after sewing it, I'll iron it both front and back, both sides. I'll give it a good press. After I've done that, I will now lose my thread. I will lose it so that I'll have visible stitches. My lines, all the parts that I sew will be visible. That is why I will sew it first and then iron it before losing it. So we'll do the same thing on our front skirt. My nape to waist is 16 inches. I'll place the 16 inches right on the waistline, and then my nape to hip is 25 inches. You go up by 1 inch and come down by 1 inch, and my nape to knee is 34 inches. So my waist circumference is 28 divided by 4 is 7. You mark 7 here on the fabric. My hip circumference is 38 divided by 4. You have 9.5. So remember, I added half inch to the back, so I am going to remove that half inch that I added here to the back hip from this front hip measurement. So instead of marking 9.5, I am going to mark 9 inches here as my hip measurement. So using your straight ruler, you draw a straight line here first before you use your curved ruler to connect the hip to the waistline. So you measure what you have here. You measure the same thing on your knee line. Using the straight side of your ruler, you connect or you draw a straight line down to the knee and then to the full length line. So I'll do the same thing. I will sew it. After sewing on this line, I am going to iron it both sides and then loose it. That will help me to have visible stitches. So you sew, you iron, and then you loose it. So guys, I'm back. I'm done with my shaping, which involves sewing, ironing, and loosing. So I have visible stitches. I can see the line where I sew. So it's time for us to join both the front and back together. So I'll place them like this, right sides facing each other. So it's on the lines that I made, the visible stitches that I made from sewing, ironing, and loosing. So I'll place the lines together. It's on that lines that I'm going to sew. So but before that, I'll need to hem the length of the skirt. This part, I'm going to sew it with ½ inches all the way down. I'll do the same for the back also. The right side of your lining facing the right side of your fabric. Like this, the right side of your fabric, the right side of your lining, and using ½ inch, I'm going to sew it all the way down. So use ½ inch to sew it all the way down. After you've done that, just turn it and then you place the right side of your front skirt on the right side of your back skirt like this. So you now sew on the visible stitches that you made from shaping, ironing and losing. So you sew on that lines together, only on the fabric. So it's fabric to fabric, then later also our lining. So guys, I'm back from sewing it. So this is what you have. I'm done shaping the fabric, so it's time for us to join the lining. So it's fabric to fabric, lining to lining. So but I'm not going to use the same allowance I used in shaping my fabric to shape my lining, because I don't want my skirt to be too tight from inside, so I would need a little bit space inside. So I'm going to use 1/2 inch to shape the lining. I'll do that on both sides. Starting from the weight side of the fabric, I'll find a way to connect it and bring it down, reduce it to 1/2 inch. And guys, remember to leave 3 or 4 inches allowance on one side of the lining to enable you turn out your skirt. And after you've done that, you give your skirt a good press, you iron it properly. So guys, don't use the same inches you use in shaping your fabric to shape your skirt. Just use 1/2 inch to shape your lining, so it will not be too tight inside. Then after you've done that, you iron your skirt. So guys, this is our final piece. Your skirt is ready, and see how neat and beautiful our skirt is looking. If not for the fact that it's lining, you can even wear both front and back. So it's looking very neat. Let's turn it and see what we'll have. So guys, your skirt is ready, looking very beautiful and neat. So this is how we've come to the end of today's tutorial. And if you find this video very helpful, guys, please support my channel by clicking on the subscribe button. It's free, it costs nothing to subscribe. And guys, also like and leave a comment in the comment section. Don't forget to turn on your notification bell so that you get notified each time I upload a new video. Bye. See you in my next video.